CBS presents this program in color.
We'd like you to meet a young lady who was recently elected as Queen of the World's Airline Stewardesses. What is your name, please?
My name is Patty Paulson.
My name is Patty Paulson.
My name is Patty Paulson.
Only one of these young ladies is the real Patty Paulson. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Orson Bean, Peggy Cass, West Coast radio and TV personality Jerry Dexter, Kitty Carlisle, plus 100 people in our studio audience on To Tell the Truth. This portion of To Tell the Truth is brought to you by Nestle's, who makes the very best.
As good as Nescafe was, we've found something better. So much better that we've changed our label, our process, even our jar, and developed a totally new kind of instant coffee. New natural process Nescafe with natural coffee flavor. It took 10 years to develop. Nescafe is made a whole new way, a natural way. It's pre-perked for you naturally, like you'd perk coffee. Gently, not too long. You can see the difference. Compare it to the powdery instant you've been used to. New Nescafe's color is darker, richer, like fresh ground coffee. The granules are bigger, more natural. Everything is new about new Nescafe. The new way it's made, a new natural process, a new label, a new jar, and the flavor you get. Natural coffee flavor.
And now, here's our host on To Tell the Truth, Bud Collier.
Thank you very much. And welcome once again to Tell the Truth. Good afternoon, panel.
Good afternoon, Bud.
And a welcome to you, Jerry Dexter.
Thank you, Bud.
Glad you elected to come on in from the West Coast and share a week with us.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
It's been fun to have you. Now, in front of you, of course, you'll find today's envelopes, contents of which you've never seen before. And you have nothing to read on this one because this young lady, as you heard, was crowned Queen of the World's Airline Stewardesses. So, we'll simply start the questioning, if we may, with Orson Bean. Orson?
Thank you. Number 3, in the old days, when it used to take, say, 7 or 8 hours to fly to Los Angeles, you girls had time to be a true hostess in the true sense. But now you're there by the time you've picked up the cigar butts from the end of the meal, right? Does it make it harder?
Well, the jet age is here.
Yeah, it just makes it harder to be a stewardess, doesn't it?
Well, it is. It's still an awful lot of fun.
Number 1, now, what about the marriage rate? It always was a big joke in the old days that stewardesses always found rich husbands because they fell in love with the stewardess.
Yes, that's a big joke.
It is a big joke.
Yes.
It's not true, huh? All right.
No.
Number 3. I mean to say number 2. What about the, one time there was in the paper that the plane arrived in Los Angeles early and the movie wasn't over and the crowd refused to leave. They made a sit-in until the movie was over and they had to leave the plane on the ground there. Had you heard about that?
Isn't that awful? But we don't have movies on our flights.
What flights are yours?
Deutsche Lufthansa.
Deutsche Lufthansa? I should think you'd have some of those fine old pictures with Hildegard Neff and everything. Well, oh, the time fled, didn't it?
Peggy Cass.
You're Lufthansa 1. Which airline are you?
Deutsche Lufthansa.
No, number 1.
I'm with SAS.
SAS. And number 3, which one are you with?
American Airlines.
Oh, are you, number 3, do you go on any international flights?
No, I just fly the nonstop from New York to Los Angeles.
Well, who voted number 3 for this contest? Which stewardesses were involved in the voting?
In the contest?
Yes.
There were 20 girls from 16 countries.
Uh-huh. But who voted? Who cast the votes? The passengers or the guys that work in the garage or what?
There were 12 judges from all over South America.
All from South America?
Yes.
No wonder they pick blondes. Number 1, how many scotches to a customer?
Excuse me, how many?
How many scotches would you give a person?
Well, as many as he or she likes.
That's the
but
airline.
We try to limit it.
Number 3, do you have a rule about scotches on your airline?
Yes, just 2 to a customer.
I know that one.
Jerry Dexter.
Number 1, which airplane has 3 engines? Is it a Convair 880 or a Boeing 727?
That's a Boeing 727.
Number 2, what determines the competition? What is the competition based on in this contest? The contest you just won.
Well, you're supposed to be very efficient, very poised, and you have to treat your passengers well. And if you're lucky, you're beautiful.
Certainly that, right? Number 3, each of you, or rather none of you are from an airline traveling to South America. Why was South America?
Why were the judges?
Why were the judges from South America?
Which number are you asking?
Number 3, I'm sorry.
Well, the tourist bureau sponsored the contest in Uruguay, and so the judges were from South America.
I see. Okay.
Kitty Carlisle.
Number 1, in the jet age, and the flights being so fast, do you find you swell up on these flights?
Oh, no. No, I would be very unfortunate if I did.
I find it easy to swell up. Oh, well. Number 2, is it easier or harder to deal with men or women?
Oh, I think men are very easy to deal with. Women are a little bit more particular, but we love them.
Do you prefer dealing with men, number 3?
I enjoy both.
Good for you. I like that. Number 1, at what age are you retired in your airline?
Our airline goes to 32.
And number 3, what age are you retired in your airline? Haven't they changed that rule in America?
They tried to pass it through the courts, but it still is 32.
Number 2, do you have a union in your airline?
Yes, we do.
And what hours how many hours are you allowed to work per day?
It's usually 70 in the month.
70 in the month, and then you rest in between.
That's it. Time for you now not to rest, but to mark your ballots, if you will, please. So mark them at once without change and, of course, without consultation. And while you're voting, it's time for our studio audience to vote. On the voting machines in front of each of you, there are 3 buttons. When I say vote, please select number 1, number 2, or number 3. Are you ready? Vote! All right, let's see how our panel voted. Orson, for whom did you vote?
Well, these 3 young girls are just lovely. I'm glad that they've left that age where it is, because I think it should be beautiful. Still, once I flew with LL Israel, and they have a motherly type who comes around and says, you want to eat something. I voted for number 2. I really had no particular reason, but I picked her.
Peggy.
I've written it down so I can't change my mind. Well, number 2 seems very efficient, and Lufthansa is a very efficient airline. I think number 1 is a door, but I voted for number 3 because you know something, on American Airlines they say, but you've had your 2 jumbo American Airlines Scotch drinks.
You can have mine.
Don't worry, I go around cadging.
Jerry Dexter.
I think, Bud, my selection is number 1. She seemed to know about the airplanes and the engines on the 880 and 727. She was correct in her answer.
Okay. Kitty.
I think they're all irresistible, but I voted for number 3 because she was awfully good about all those retirement ages and things, and for such a young girl to know so much, I think she's an airline stewardess.
All right, there are your votes. Now let's find out who got the most votes from our studio audience. Our audience voted for number 3. Very well, let's settle the fact once and for all. Will the real Patty Polson please stand up? Well, I must say they could have chosen well, no matter which one of you they had chosen, had you all been stewardesses. Number 1, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Bente Hirsch, and I'm assistant film editor.
Thank you. And number 2, what is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Jeanette Uhr, and I'm a national representative for Charles of the Ritz and Miss Ritz.
Well, in checking the score, we find that there were 2 incorrect votes. That's twice $100 for a total of $200. Ladies, thank you for gracing our show so prettily. Goodbye and God bless. We'll meet our second team of challengers in just a minute. You know, there are many, many reasons for not feeling your best, and here's a very common one.
Hour after hour, when time seems to stretch, and you can't sleep, can't sleep, can't sleep, because backache, nagging backache, keeps you awake. Remember, there is something that may help. Doan's. Doan's pills, an analgesic, a pain reliever. Doan's pain-relieving action often helps relieve backache, which may come on with overexertion or everyday stress and strain. Doan's pills' pain-relieving action is often the answer. Doan's are not a habit-forming drug, but a well-known standard remedy used by millions. So don't wait. If you want relief from nagging backache and that miserable, tired-out feeling, and you want the rest you need, see if you can't get welcome relief with Doan's pills. Used successfully by millions for over 70 years. For convenience, buy Doan's large size.
And now let's meet our next team of challengers.
Last year alone, more than 100,000 teenagers ran away from home. Our next guest is the head of an organization which is doing something about it. What is your name, please?
My name is Larry Beggs.
My name is Larry Beggs. My name is Larry Beggs.
We'll play our game with Larry Beggs in 1 minute, after this message. All right, panel, open up your second envelope, if you will, please, and follow along with me. I, Larry Beggs, am co-director of Huckleberries for Runaways in San Francisco, California. Every month, thousands of teenagers run away from home. Attracted by the life of the hippies on our Haight-Ashbury district, many of them come to San Francisco. Huckleberries offers these youngsters a place to stay, food to eat, and a chance to work out their problems. I am proud of the fact that after help and counsel from our staff, almost all of the hundreds of young people who stayed with us this past summer have gone back to their homes and families. Signed, Larry Beggs.
This portion of To Tell the Truth was brought to you by Nestle's, who makes the very best.
Very well, panel. These three gentlemen all claim to be Larry Beggs, as you heard. Audience, you'll be voting for the real one again, so listen carefully to the questioning, which begins with Kitty Carlisle. Kitty.
Thank you, Bud. I think that's a rather witty name, the Huckleberries. Number one, what is the cardinal rule that you've observed for a parent to avoid having his or her child run away from home? Is there any one rule?
Always make an effort to understand the child.
Number two, do you believe that a certain amount of permissiveness is important or rigidity?
Definitely permissiveness.
You think it's better? Number three, would you be known, therefore, as a digger?
No.
Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Number one, what is the percentage of drug takers among the hippies in the Haight-Ashbury district?
Well, if you mean LSD as opposed to the hard drugs, I'd say it's about 50%.
That much. Number two, do most of them have very, very bad effects from this?
I would say yes.
Number three, when they agree to go home, do you call their parents to come and fetch them, or do you make them go home by themselves?
We have the parents come.
That must be very touching.
Horse and me.
To who?
To the parents to come and get their children.
Your story has touched my heart. Number three, Now, what do you do with a kid who's so miserable at home that he ran away, and then it's obviously not right for him to go and live with the hippies, and maybe he's 16 years old or something, but on the other hand, he's miserable at home. Do you tell him to sweat it out, stick it out till you're 18 and join the army, or what do you tell him?
Well, we would try to get the family in to really try to straighten out that situation.
Well, number one, most of these problems go back many years. It isn't as if an attitude can suddenly change when the kid is 16. If a kid leaves home at 16, he has been miserable there for many years and has probably made his folks miserable for many years. Now, what kind of advice can you give for a deeply ingrained mutual hatred?
We try to get the parents and the child together and have them talk out their problems on a neutral ground.
Number two, do you feel that this can be successful? I mean, I suppose you do, right?
Actually, we try to find alternatives to the problem.
Like what, for instance, number two? Do you ever advise that the kid not go home, but that the parents do something else? Or?
Definitely.
What?
Well, they could live with another family if the parents approve.
You would advise a thing like that sometimes. That makes sense.
Peggy Cass.
Thank you. Number three, do you really believe that there is an enormous generation gap for the people over 30 and like the hippies?
Very definitely.
But just, is that only with these hippies that went to Haight-Ashbury? I mean, or do you think it really exists all over the country with like kids that seem pretty straight at home? Do you still think there's a communication gap?
There's a historical gap, you know, that just you're living in a different age.
Number one, what percentage of the kids in Haight-Ashbury do you think just smoke pot? I don't mean like take trips, just pot.
Well, everyone tries it every now and then. They're not all habitués.
Thank you. Number two, do you provide medical aid for these kids?
Yes, there are a number of community services available in this area.
Thank you. Number three, of the kids that do go home with their parents, how many returns do you get? They left in the first place because they couldn't stand it. You send them back, don't a lot of them leave again and you get returns?
A lot of them leave again. We don't get very many returns.
Jerry Dexter.
Number one, what reason do most of the teenagers give for coming to San Francisco specifically? Why San Francisco?
Well, San Francisco is the mecca of the hippie people who are drawn toward the hippie way of life.
Mm-hmm. Number two, do most of these kids blame their parents directly? Is that their biggest beef?
Primarily, but it's the resentment of authority. They want to find themselves.
Number three, do you find that's true? Do you find that most of the kids are defiant of authority? And if so, isn't that a difficult gap to break through for you?
It'd be a different kind of a kids would want consultants out of their parents rather than arbitrary authoritarians.
Number one, speaking of San Francisco, where in San Francisco is the San Francisco Juvenile Detention Center? In what part of the city?
What part of the city?
What part of the city?
It's near the panhandle of Golden Gate Park.
And that's it. It is time for you now to mark your ballots. So mark them at once, if you will, please, without change, without consultation.
Wow.
And at the same time, it's our audience's turn to try to vote on the voting machines. Again, when I say vote, please select number 1, number 2, or number 3. Are you ready? Vote! So, those panel votes are registered, and the panel has not voted, so let's find out how they voted.
Very tough.
Orson, for whom did you vote?
They were all marvelous. Two great liars up there. I voted for number 3 because I have a hunch that he could really talk to a kid, and that number 3 is smoking a banana there. You may have wondered.
Kind of figured that. Peggy!
Number one threw him by knowing where the jail is, but then of course maybe he's been there. I voted for number 3 because, you know, he looks young and he sort of looks a little bit like a hippie, and if I were a kid I'd talk to him, whereas I wouldn't talk to those other two with the seersucker suit and the blue suit.
Jerry Dexter.
I picked number 2, Bud. Number 2. He looks the part, and I crossed off number 1 because the Juvenile Detention Center in San Francisco is by Twin Peaks. From my young days in San Francisco, I recall that very vividly.
That's what you call creative
I
mind.
wish I'd known. I wish I'd known you had a misspent youth.
Kitty Carlisle.
Well, I was all ready to vote for number 3 until that question came up, and I voted for number 1. Number 3, it seems to me, must be a psychology major, and number 2 is a very nice, sensible fellow.
Very well, we'll find out how our audience voted and meet the real Larry Beggs in 60 seconds. All right, let's find out how our audience voted. Our studio audience voted for Number 2. So let's learn now which of these 3 gentlemen in truth runs Huckleberries for Runaways. Will the real Larry Beggs please stand up? Thank you very much. Larry, just quickly, what do you do for a living?
Me?
Yes.
I'm a minister.
A minister in what church?
United Church of Christ.
It's a wonderful, wonderful work you do.
Vegas minister.
Number 1, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Robert Craven. I'm an editor at McGraw-Hill Publishing Company in New York.
Thank you, sir. And number 2, what is your real name and what do you do?
Frank Gordon. I'm director of Jobs Abroad for Students in Europe. We get them jobs. It's at UN Plaza, New York.
Thank you, sir. Checking the score, we find that there were 1, 2, 3 incorrect votes this time. 3 times $100 or $300. Thanks for visiting us. Hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye and God bless you. We'll be back in a minute. Now, a few words. And that's all we have time for. Goodbye, panel.
Goodbye, Bud.
See you tomorrow, too. And in the meantime, don't you forget to tell the truth. Bye.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Goodson, Bill Taunton production. Johnny Olson speaking. Today's program was pre-recorded.
CBS presents this program in color.
We have in our audience today a recently married couple we'd like you to meet. Will Suzette and Michael Newman please stand up? Only one of these young men is actually married to Suzette. The other 2 are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Orson Bean, Peggy Cass, West Coast radio and TV personality Jerry Dexter, Kitty Carlisle, plus 100 people in our studio audience on To Tell the Truth. And now, here's our host on To Tell the Truth, Bud Collier.
Thank you very much. Welcome again to Tell the Truth. Good afternoon, panel.
Good afternoon, Bud.
What a joy to be with you today, as every day. You really brighten the parts of it that might not be bright, were it not for you. The three men you saw in the audience just a minute ago are now in a soundproof room, and they can't hear anything being said here on stage. All of them, of course, claim to be Suzette's husband. Now, we're going to let each of you question Suzette so that you can find out something about Suzette and Michael and their relationship with each other. We'll give you one question at a time. Orson, suppose you start.
Thank you. May I call you Suzette, Suzette?
Certainly.
That's not a question. When your husband proposed to you, did you take a long time to give him an answer?
No.
A short time?
That's two questions. Peggy.
Suzette, what was your very first argument about? Do you remember?
We don't really argue at all.
You've never had one?
Not a real argument.
All sneaking two questions now. Come on here. Jerry.
Suzette, what was your mother's reaction when she first met him?
I don't really know. I think she was a bit sort of emotionally upset.
Upset. My mother-in-law, when I first met her, she said, "How do you do?" and then suggested that I join the army. That's it. She really...
Kitty Carlisle.
Number one, Suzette. Where am I?
Who else?
I do that in my sleep. Are you a very good cook?
I try my best.
Orson.
What do you make that he really loathes?
Loathes?
Loathes.
Does not like.
As in detests.
He eats everything that I make, but I do make some blunders sometimes.
Blunders?
Peggy.
Well, you seem to be English to me, so where did you meet?
We met here, but
Where?
we met here.
Oh, here.
Jerry.
Suzette, on the major decisions in the family, who makes them? The husband, or are they jointly decided in your family?
He discusses them with me, and then he'll make the choice.
That's the way it should be.
Kitty Carlisle.
Number one. Oh, I'm
What number am I?
4. How long have you been married?
4, 5 months.
Oh, that's all.
That's all the time we have for questions now. Let's get our gentleman out here, if we may. And, okay. You've learned a little something, I trust, panel, about Suzette and Michael. Gentlemen, you couldn't hear anything at all?
No.
During this questioning? Okay. Let's see if you can find out which one of these men is married to Suzette Newman. We'll start the questioning with Orson Bean.
Thank you. Number 2 now. How long have you been married?
About 4 months.
And when you proposed to your wife, I assume you did propose to her, she didn't propose to you?
That's correct.
Did she answer you immediately?
Well, it wasn't that formal a proposal.
What, you just kind of slipped the notion across one day, or?
Well, I asked her to stay here the next summer.
I see, all right. And that implied that you intended to do
It
correctly.
did to me,
I
yes.
assume, yes. Number 3, now, is she a good cook?
Yes, she is.
Yeah, number 1, does she clean up every day, or do you have to beat her?
No, she cleans up very well.
She cleans up nicely. How big a place do you live in?
3 rooms.
Yeah, you plan on having babies?
Probably.
Yeah. Oh, my...
Take it, Cass.
Number 3, did you ever go abroad to meet her parents?
Yes, I did.
What was their reaction to you?
Favorable.
Boy, it took a long time to answer you. Did it take them a little while to get it to be favorable?
Yes.
I'm making my own opinion. Yes, it must have. Number 1, what were you doing when she met you?
I was at Fire Island.
Oh, ho. Yeah, where? You got a house out there? I love it out there.
I was part of a grouper.
Part of a what?
A grouper.
A grouper? That's a fish.
No, that's a bunch of guys that rent an apartment.
Oh, you mean you rented a place with a lot of fellas, I see. And was she in a place with a lot of girls?
Yes.
How sweet.
Jerry Dexter.
Number 3, who's going to take care of the money in your family? Suzette, or will you do it? What's going to happen?
I will.
You'll take care of the money.
Yes.
Very firm about that, aren't you? Number 2, Is Suzette going to work, or is she going to stay at home?
She does work.
She does work?
Yes.
I see. What does she do?
She works for Vidal Sassoon.
I was going to ask where she got her hair cut.
And number one, would you let Suzette pick out your suits?
No.
No. Don't think a woman should do that.
No.
And now, Kitty, by the number this time.
Number 3. What is your profession?
I work in the finance department of TWA.
And number 2, what do you do?
I do the same.
Do you like to eat, number 2?
Yes.
You don't look like a fellow likes to eat. Do you like to eat, number 3?
Yes, I do.
I think that's the quicker answer. Number 1, how come you have this slightly European attitude about you're going to make all the decisions and you're going to handle the money? Did you say you were going to handle the money, or was that number 3?
I believe one of the others said it, but
you believe in that?
Yes.
That's it. Time for you to mark your ballots with the information you have, without change and, of course, without any consultation betwixt and between you. And while you're voting, it's time for our studio audience to vote. On the voting machines in front of each of you, there are 3 buttons. When I say vote, will you please select number 1, number 2, or number 3? Are you ready? Vote. Very well, that's in. We'll reveal the results in a minute. First, let's see how our panel voted. Orson, for whom did you vote?
I voted for number 2. I got touted off of number 3 because he was unsure about the reaction of her parents, and she had told us that they were a little emotionally upset upon meeting him. Number 1 said it wasn't sure whether they were going to have children or not, which is entirely possible, but I voted for number 2.
Peggy.
Well, I voted for number 1 because I've spent a lot of time at Fire Island. He looks just like those guys that come down to the dock with a martini and the Jamaica shorts to meet the wife coming back from work.
Jerry Dexter.
But I selected number 3. They're all good storytellers. Number 3 was very firm on his decisions, and Kitty had a good point about the European attitude. He was very fast, very quick. I'll take number 3.
Kitty.
Well, Suzette, if you don't like the one you got, judging by the way all 3 were looking at you, you can take your pick. But I voted for number 3 on the basis of the food. He looks like the best fed, and he looks like the one that likes to eat the most.
So, let's find out who got the most votes from our studio audience. Our audience voted for number 2. Now, Suzette, will you do us the favor of showing us which of these fortunate guys is married to you? Michael, is she a good cook?
Yes, she is.
What best of all that she does do you like?
Quiche Lorraine. She's very good at it.
You didn't know your mother-in-law was upset when she met you, right?
They were a little, but they concealed well that I was coming over to bring her back to America, and they were naturally a little upset about that.
I'm sure it's all right now.
I hope
much
so.
happiness to you both.
Thank you very much.
Number 1, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Mike Collins, and I'm an advertising executive in New York City.
Thank you, sir. Number 2, what is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Terry Davidson, and I buy women's shirts for Sears Roebuck.
Taking the score, we find that there were 3 incorrect votes, 1 from the audience and 2 from our panel. That's 3 times $100 or $300, gentlemen. Thanks for being with us. Goodbye, and God bless you. We'll meet our next team of challengers in a minute. Now, this word. And now let's meet our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Edward Blackoff. My name is Edward Blackoff.
My name is Edward Blackoff.
We'll learn more about Edward Blackoff in just a minute. But first, listen to this message from our sponsor.
How old is Jane? Her skin says 18. Jane says 24. Albaline, the look younger cream. How old is Ellen? Her skin says 25. She admits to 39. Albaline, the look younger cream. Is it because Albaline makes everything it touches look softer, smoother, younger? Probably. That's why we call Albaline the look younger cream.
No, I'm not going to the newcomers cookout tonight.
Why not?
My dentures. Meeting all those new people. No confidence.
Try this.
Orifix. Oh, denture adhesive. They don't hold long enough for me.
Orifix does. It really holds.
Worth a try. Next week? Great.
Hey, you sure have confidence.
More than that.
Huh?
I've got Orifix.
Orifix really holds, and holds.
Very well, panel. Open up your second envelope and follow along as I read. I, Edward Blackoff, have built a successful business on the fact that the American woman won't do housework unless she absolutely has to. As a matter of fact, there are 5.5 million American families who want household help, and only 1.5 million in this country who will take that kind of job. I help bridge that gap by importing from Europe girls to work in American homes. These women come from countries where housekeeping is still considered an art. They come here for various reasons under a 1-year contractual agreement. So far, I have imported some 10,000 young women as domestic help for the American market. Signed, Edward Blackoff. Panel, these three gentlemen all claim to be Edward Blackoff. Audience, you'll be voting for the real person again, so listen carefully. We'll begin with Peggy Cass. Peggy?
Thank you. Number 3, supposing a family imports a girl from, say, Ireland or Scotland or something, and she gets here and she really hates it, what then of contractual agreements?
Well, we guarantee free replacement within 90 days.
Oh, so, well, number 2, now what would happen if you brought a girl in and the family that she was working for was really a miserable bunch of people, just really rotten? What would you do then?
Well, we'd have to give the girl another job.
And you would not be, but then you sign a contract with the family to replace her. Well, you wouldn't replace it if they were really terrible, would you?
Well, being terrible is a question of opinion, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you know what I mean, rotten. Some people are impossible to work for. You know, they expect a girl to work 24 hours a day. What do you do then to help the girl out?
We'd have to counsel the position then and see to it that they were behaved better the next time.
Thank you.
Jerry Dexter.
Number 1, in Los Angeles, not too long ago, there was quite a furor in the local press about many of these girls, not certainly specifically your girls, I'm sure, but girls who had been brought to America and were exploited because they didn't all speak the language and could not get other jobs and were forced to stay with employers they didn't like, etc. What do you do to alleviate that problem? Has that come up amongst your girls?
Well, first of all, it couldn't have been one of our girls.
I'm sure not.
We do not service Los Angeles. Before a person is selected and before she is accepted by our organization, she's very carefully screened abroad. She has no police record, whatever. And, of course, her medical condition is also equally good. In this country, the individuals, the employers, have to file a certificate of financial responsibility.
I see. Oh, okay.
Number 2, do you investigate the employing family here?
Well, there are certain regulations and conditions that they have to comply with.
Thank you. Number 3, what is au pair?
Well, it's a sort of a student-type girl who will go work with a family just
Thank
for
you. Number 2, do they pay these girls less than they would pay indigenous help?
No.
They pay the same?
Same.
Number 1, who pays for their transportation? Do they work that off and get paid less per month until it's worked off?
Yes, the employer puts up the money first, and the girl then repays the passage money during the period of a year's employment.
Orson B.
Number 3, is there a minimum pay that they must get?
Yes, $50.
$50?
Yes.
Number 2, you agree with that?
Yes.
Number 1, what's the form required by U.S. immigration that the girls must fill out, that the prospective employer must fill out and sign?
Now, there's a labor permit which the employee must fulfill, and the consul, the foreign consul in the country from which she originates must comply with whatever local regulations there also are in force.
Number 2, these girls, are they classified as resident aliens?
Yes.
Is there still a quota system in fact?
That's all the time we have, I'm sorry to say. It is time for you now to mark your ballots, so please do so. And audience, once again, it's time for you to vote on your voting machines. Again, when I say vote, please select number 1, number 2, or number 3. Are you ready? Vote! Very well, those votes are registered. Let's see how our panel voted. Orson, for whom did you vote?
But the audience is consulting, I can see. I voted for number 1. They were all good liars. It's my understanding that minimum pay was raised to $65 million, but maybe that's only in New York State or something. I voted for number 1. Peggy?
Well, I didn't vote for number 1 because he answered very fully, and usually said the real one, they just kind of give you yes and no. I voted for number 3. I think he looks like an enterprising young man. I wonder where they all come from.
Gary Dexter.
But I voted for number 1, who was very firm about saying that he could not serve Los Angeles, and many television producers have said, I don't either, but nevertheless, he was very definite in his answer on number 1.
Kitty Carlisle.
They were all very good. I think number 1 is either a lawyer, knowing all about those forms and everything, or he's the real one.
Very well, we'll find out how our audience voted and meet the real Edward Blackoff in just a minute. Now, this message. So, panel votes are all in. Let's see who got the most votes from our studio audience. Our audience voted for number 1. Very well, it's time to find out which of these 3 gentlemen, in truth, imports domestic help to work here in the United States. Will the real Edward Blackoff please stand up? Okay, Kitty.
What's the name of the organization? Where do most of the girls come from?
Most girls come from the United Kingdom, and the total organization is Your Place Associates, and we have placement franchises throughout
Your Place Associates?
Is there still a quota system for girls? How about the Scandinavian girls? Can they come in fairly easily?
Yes.
Are they sleep-ins or
Only.
only? Thank you.
That's all we have time for. Any other questions? We'll meet them after the show. You can find out all you want to. Number 1, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Don Gellert. I'm an inventor of the psychedelic lighting effects which are used in nightclubs and industrial shows.
Thank you, sir. Number 3, what is your real name and what do you do?
Well, Peggy was right. I am enterprising. My name is Steve Zardis, and I'm a stockbroker on Park Avenue here for the firm of Payne, Weber, Jackson, and Curtis.
Well, in checking the score, gentlemen, you did extremely well. For the first time in quite a few days, you skunked the panel all the way. There were 5 incorrect votes, 5 times $100, $500. Thanks for being with us. Goodbye. God bless you. Back to our show in just a minute, but right now, listen to this word.
A Hollywood set where we're going to prove that VO5 outholds any other leading hairspray. This actress uses another leading spray. This actress, VO5 with Murol, the miraculous holding ingredient. Now, the rainstorm. And proof that VO5 outholds any other leading hairspray, even in a Hollywood rainstorm. Try VO5 with Murol.
Heart-pounding, eye-popping, traffic-stopping, hair color. New 15-minute New Dawn. Riched up. Switched on. New Dawn. New 15-minute New Dawn. Just shampoo in. Quick and clever. Better than ever. New 15-minute New Dawn. Fancy-free. Look at me. Fun color. Now in 15 minutes with New Dawn. The shampoo and hair color that's better. Faster. By Alberto Culver.
Bye, panel. See you tomorrow, I'm happy to say. And see you tomorrow, too, I trust. In the meantime, don't you forget to tell the truth. Bye.
To Tell the Truth, a Mark Goodson, Bill Cotton production was pre-recorded.